Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into the Spotlight Omaha podcast presented by Pixel Fire Marketing inside of the Pyramid Contractors Studio. Jimmie Allen, Casey Matthews, Alex Drake with you, joined by Mitch Ballock from Creighton fame / Creighton's coaching staff now. Mitch, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Not fame, but something like that.
Well, our caption says that you're a Creighton legend, so we're trying to pump you up as best we possibly can. So
there's some major Mitch Ballock lore going on.
Well, I guess that's good.
Yeah, the Roll Jays podcast here with you today. It's been a while since we've been on, but we do appreciate everybody continue to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, etc. Hey, Mitch, obviously with everything going on currently at Creighton with new faces coming in, old faces leaving, what has the vibe around the program been walking kind of back into this with so many guys leaving the program and so many new faces coming in?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the world we're in right now. There's going to be transfers here and there. There's going to be new freshmen, and people are going to come and go. Obviously, when you lose guys that, I don't know, Baylor and Trey were probably 65 to 70% of our offense last year. When you lose those guys, it's obviously tough to I don't know, supplement. But
yeah,
we think we've done well in the transfer portal, and we felt like we found some guys that we can implement into our system with the core guys, with Steven, Mason, Jason, Ryan still being here. Those guys will obviously, with their leadership and their experience, they'll help guys like Pop and Jemiah and the freshmen acclimate a lot quicker than they normally will. So it's good to have that. It's good to have youth coming in. It's good to have transfers that we think we can piece together to hopefully fill that void that we're missing with Trey and Baylor this year. And then so far this summer, they've been doing a good job. And then this first week back to school, they've been doing a really good job getting in the gym and just kind of getting to know each other and getting familiar with one another's game. So it's been fun so far, and it'll be fun the rest of the year, I'm sure.
Mitch, how has a guy like Fred King's attitude been after entering the portal and then deciding to come back? What's his attitude been like? Is he rejuvenated? Where's he at right now?
Honestly, yeah, I think that's a good word. I think rejuvenated is really good. I think he's more focused and locked in now because he's been telling us he wants to play, and sometimes his actions don't always tell you that, and I won't tell you anything that he won't tell you himself. So the good thing is, I mean, from last year to this year, I think he's made a huge jump. He wants to get in the gym more. He's kind of setting goals and setting like a plan to achieve those goals. He's putting that in front of him, so it kind of keeps his focus and his mentality locked in and kind of taking it a day at a time. You know, his approach has completely changed. He's in the gym a lot more. He's doing some good things, and it showed in practice. The live action through June and July, he's benefited from it. Obviously, when we get into practices next week, team workouts together, hopefully it continues to shine. But he's definitely rejuvenated. We're glad to have him back. He's glad to be back. And obviously Ryan loves having him back as well. So
you, Mitch, you're also going into year 2. So obviously for you, this has been, a little bit different from going straight away from being a player right into that coaching role. And the reviews that you got publicly, I know you don't really care too much about that stuff. However, I think it's great. And as someone who has watched you play and been around you, it's really neat to see you take that step. What I want to know from you is, it's interesting this year versus last year, where last year you had so many returners that you were kind of learning the team. Okay, now you're there again, you're established, and now you have so many new guys. What's the difference for you in now trying to help these new guys, these additions, learn the culture versus last year where you were really kind of trying to find your way?
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I think the biggest thing is just like being comfortable with the guys and being able to have uncomfortable conversations with them when in a time of whether they need it or I need it or everybody needs it for kind of the betterment of the group or the team. Last year, like when you come in, you're not trying to step on toes. You're just trying to see how your piece of the puzzle or your piece fits into the puzzle and navigating kind of those dynamics of player-coach relationship, because I was also just removed from playing. So now it's like it's 50-50. I'm like on their side, but it's really not. Like, it's got to be 75-25 where, hey, I have your best interest, but I also, like, I'm on the other side of the spectrum now, and I'm with the coaching staff. So now I know kind of where I'm at, and I know how to approach those conversations, especially the difficult ones when you can kind of get Mac's message across a little easier because, one, I played there and I lived it, and now I'm able to see, like, the other side of it being outside the court. And you know how it is, Case. Like, I mean, obviously I want to be like you when I grow up, you know. The relationships are the biggest thing. When you
what a low bar.
That's the highest bar that's the highest level the bar can go. So we'll get there. I'll be 75 or 80 when I get there, but we'll figure it out. But the biggest thing is those relationships. Like, when you're coming into a new situation, you got to learn everybody. Right now, I know everybody, and we got 6 new guys that you kind of familiarize yourself with and build those relationships and those connections. And the stronger those relationships are, the easier those difficult situations or those like come to Jesus moments, like look yourself in the mirror. Those conversations are easier to have when you've put a lot of time and effort into those guys. And I think last year I didn't have much time to do that because everybody already did the Bahamas trip. They did the summer. And I just kind of showed up in like early September. I couldn't even work the guys out the first semester. So I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with them. So it was a whole lot different. Now I'm in a completely different role and a completely different position with each and every one of them. And I think that'll benefit us going forward, from my personal opinion to them. So,
Mitch, Mac's one of the best communicators in the business, in my opinion. And how does the way he communicates with Mitch Ballock, the player, different than communicating with Mitch Ballock, the coach?
That's a great question. I've actually never been asked that question. The biggest thing is, like, Mac's big thing is trust, and Casey will attest to this. Once he trusts you as a player, then your rope starts to extend and you're able to do a little more. And you're able to have a little more leeway. That's just kind of what it is when you show him that he can trust you. It's the same thing, but a completely different dynamic because I'm not winning him any games. Like, I can't physically have the ball in my hands and do anything about it. But once you have conversations back and forth and talk to him and he understands and learns that he can trust you, then you start to get more responsibility and you start to get more, I don't know, leeway. But figuring out how that happens and figuring out how to go about that is completely different because as a player, you just, hey, give me the ball, I'll make the right decision, or I'll make the decision that you want me to make, whether I think it's right or wrong, you know? In my role now, it's just kind of like you got to, like, he'll guide you and he does a really good job. Like you talked about, really good communicator. Like, his communication level is above all. Like, he does really well with that and everything's clear and concise when he essentially has the floor. And then you just kind of filter in and learn from that. But the biggest thing is just trying to do it because he gives you a lot of freedom as well until you abuse it. And the more he trusts you, you get more freedom. But I think it's just a different approach because I can't physically, results don't directly follow like they do on the court. It's just over a long season, obviously. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how I would explain it.
You're muted, Jimmie.
Probably hard to hear me then. And that's kind of the answer I expected from you too. Because it would almost be impossible for it to be the same, right? We can't, the relationship is completely changed in several ways. Has that been easy for you to kind of navigate the waters of the different relationship from your side?
A little bit, just because of like how cool and down to earth of a guy he is. I think that's the biggest part of it. And I mean, playing with him, it's a different relationship. Like, our conversations change, you know, like now it's like a more mature, like more trusting conversation than when you're a kid on the team, you know? So yeah, it's an adjustment for sure. And I still haven't adjusted to where I'm going to be at next year or by the end of next year. Just because, I mean, the guys, if you're a sponge around him, like the guy, just watching him go to work every day, you can learn everything, a lot of things from everything that he does. So I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to navigate that relationship side of it, just because it's so different. Like, I knew him 7 years from the time he was recruiting me till the time I graduated, and now that relationship's changed. I've only been working for him for 1 year. So
I think what's interesting too is that you're, as a player, you did have a longer rope. And what I always, and we've talked about this a lot, but one of the things I loved about you as a player was you were willing to, I don't know if take advantage is the right word, but like you knew he trusted you. So you also knew you could take chances that other guys couldn't. I'll never forget some of the passes and some of the shots that, like, it's like when they work out, it's you make him look like a genius. And when they don't work out, he would privately, most of the time, let you know.
Some of them are public.
But now that you're on the coaching side, I think I just from what I've heard, I think that stuff plays a part too, and that Mitch Ballock is going to work. You don't have to worry about that. And then it's just about like how to utilize the skills that you bring to the table and help you realize the goals and dreams that you have for yourself now as a coach. He's already done that and I try to help you do that as a player. So I can only imagine that how special that relationship is now for you guys. So
yeah, it's definitely it's a cool thing, and a lot of the rope, I mean, it's earned, you know. Like you're gonna see Steven and Ryan have longer ropes just because like they've put in the time and they've earned it. When dues are paid, he pays you your dues, you know, and he kind of gives you that rope and until you abuse it, you know, and when you do, he'll check you. He knows it's timely. Like it's that relationship and that connection with the guys that I was just talking about earlier. Like he works hard and does that. So when those uncomfortable conversations happen and when he yells, or some guys, when he yells at me or whatever, like when he checks you, it comes from a place of like care and he just wants the best for you. Like at the end of the day, like we all want to win, but at the end of the day, he also wants the best for you. He could care less about himself, you know? So I think you learn a lot from that, and hopefully I can carry that not only into my coaching life, but into my life as well. So
Mitch, kind of building off of that, how do your interactions change with guys like Vanderloo and Murph and the remaining staff that's, you know, Gordy's been there forever.
Yeah.
And feel free to talk as poorly about them as you want to too.
all the things I say to him, I say to their face. So. Nothing that I say to you guys they haven't heard before. That's actually a good starting point. Like I told Murph when I didn't tell him when I got there, but when I graduated, I told Murph straight up. I was like, Murph, I hated you when I got here. And I told him this 2 or 3 times. And we've told the story to a couple other people, but I was like, Murph, I hated you. Like everything that you did, I was like, but then sophomore, junior, senior year, like I started to understand like kind of where you were coming from. And like, I loved everything that you did. I love your approach with everything that you do. And now, I mean, Murph and I and my wife and Mary Jo, we go, you know, we might go play some golf and have a drink at the club and have some dinner. And like, we go to concerts together. Like those relationships just transform from player to I mean, essentially colleague. And it's fun to work with those guys. And same deal with Gordy. Like you get to know him on a deeper level. Obviously, when you're in school, you're a little egotistical or conceited, and you're just kind of trying to figure out your own way and how you are going to be successful playing the game. But when you're outside of it and you're on the other side, like you're developing those relationships deeper and further, and just getting to know those people is cool. Like they've been all around, and that's also another thing. Like we have guys in our staff that they've been everywhere. They've seen it played. They've seen it done different ways. And like, I've seen it done essentially like 3 different ways, and they've seen a million different ways. So you can learn from everybody's experience, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then take what you do and what you don't with you the rest of the way. But those relationships are cool. Like Lou's the same old Lou. I always knew he was crazy, but he's just a crazy dude. Whatever comes to his mind, he says whatever. And it's just, again, it's a place of care, and he puts his time in, and it's just fun to shoot the shit with those guys, you know?
Yeah.
We're catching up with Mitch Ballock, Creighton assistant coach here on the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractors studio. Mitch, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago. You talked about earning trust not only with Mac, but with the coaching staff as a whole, and gaining a little bit of rope. Who are some of those guys early in this offseason that are either younger players or maybe weren't here a year ago that have earned some of that rope through camp up until this point?
Younger guys or new guys? I think Pop's doing a really good job as a new guy, earning some rope. Obviously, coming from we value different shots, and we hunt different shots, and we try to force different shots, And I think Pop has really showed that he's bought in and really looking to shoot the shots that we want him to shoot, and not some of the shots that maybe he took at Texas Tech that Mac's probably going to veto here a little bit. He's taken it in stride. He's been hurt. He was hurt all of June and a little bit of like a week of July, and then he started getting back into live action. He showed that everything on his visit. He's kind of bought into what he was saying. I think Ty Davis has done a really good job. He's probably better than I thought. Obviously I don't do much of the high school recruiting. Don't see a lot of them, but you know a little bit about him. I think his poise and just kind of how he plays and his mind for the game is above people at that level, especially as freshmen coming into like you said, transfers and older groups. It's hard to kind of get your feet wet and stamp kind of who you are or what you're about. And I think he's done a really good job doing that. I think everybody as a whole has done that. I think those two guys have stuck out to me so far. And then obviously, if you guys ask me that same question in 2 months, I hope we have everybody in that same. I hope everybody's got the rope that I did.
How much do you think your background in terms of your pro background, your pro aspirations, help you understand what some of the guys are going through throughout the season? When I think as a fan, you hear a lot of stuff, you see stuff on social media like, oh, they're just worried about NIL, or they're just worried about playing in the NBA. When in reality, like if you've been around, that like, sure, that's on your mind, but that's not all you're worried about. Do you think it helps the fact that you've been through it?
I think it does. I think it does for sure, because I'm able to have conversations with those guys that maybe some people that haven't been able to or haven't been through it aren't able to have or aren't able to relate to. And the NIL world, like it is what it is. Like it's not the player's fault, like they're just happen to be in this 6-year gap. And I'm sure everything's going to change and kind of the entitlement and everything that comes along with money is, I think we do a really good job in our locker room. It doesn't cause any problems. It didn't last year. Who's to say it won't this year? But I think our guys are really mature and they're above kind of where they're at, and they don't really talk about it, and they just kind of hoop, Because at the end of the day, like when you're in between the lines, like money doesn't matter. Like it's all about getting after it, drive and competition. And those guys, like this has been the most fun. I was actually talking. I was here for 4 years last year, and then this is technically like my 6th. I've been around the Creighton program, and this has been, out of all 6 of those years, this has been the most competitive off season and like the most competitive group of guys that just continuously, like day after day, just get after it. Like the competition level is at a high level. Like everybody's fighting for minutes and fighting for playing time and fighting to kind of show what they can do and how they fit into the puzzle. So I think it does bridge the gap because I'm so closely removed from playing, which is nice. And then I'm just someone they can come and talk to and do those things. So, and just relate to them in ways. And at the end of the day, like I'll ramble here a little bit, but at the end of the day, like these guys are human beings, like you're going to miss shots. You're going to turn the ball over. You're going to, like, they're going through stuff too. Like families aren't perfect, like girlfriends, whatever, like school, like the schedules are still the schedules. And just because they're a little bit better at a game of basketball than we are, then it doesn't really give them a pass to just belittle them and just kind of talk crazy. So I think that's, people start to miss it because it's an entertainment value for everything, but at the end of the day, like you just got to remember these guys are human beings and you got to treat them like one,
Yeah, absolutely. I think all three of us went through the stages of defending Steven.
That's a good point.
Absurd things last year when, obviously, maybe not to the same extent, but we saw Baylor struggle in his transition in year 1 too. So,
yep.
But Mitch, I wanted to kind of ask you this. Obviously, you touched on, we lost 3 really big important pieces from last year's team. You lost Francisco
yep.
off the bench, and then your top 2 scorers, really.
Yep.
That's going to give this team a little bit of a different look, whether it be with the transfers or the young guys. What about this new version of the team, apart from what you've seen in practice as far as a competitive edge? What should fans expect to see, and what's really what excites you the most about how this new team looks?
Yeah. I think we're really talented. I think we're more, I mean, this is, you can kill me on this at the end of the year.
We're not gonna make this a hot take because
Yeah, you can say it's whatever.
because Baylor got drafted in the first round. But
yeah, I just think our talent in the gym is at a higher level. Like, I mean, obviously finding a glue guy, essentially, like that trust factor that I talked about. I was kind of that when I was here. Ryan Hawkins was that when he came, and then Bello was that when he was here. Now when you lose those pieces, you have to find another one to keep it to kind of be that glue guy and keep everything together. So that's we don't have that yet. We don't know who that is. Hopefully we might not know who that is until November. There's going to be bumps in the road and you figure it out. With that being said, though, I think our talent is through the roof. I think we have guys that on this team that we didn't that can do things that guys on last year's team couldn't do. You obviously have a year older Ryan who's in more physical. He's better physical shape. You have Steven who's quicker. He's a step quicker than he was last year, and he's kind of figured it out how to defend at this level and how we want him to play at that level. And then you bring in you're talking about an all Big 12 player in Pop. Like we didn't have an all Big 12 player on our team last year.
Yeah.
And being all Big 12 is no small feat. Obviously, like he's gonna, again, you just alluded to Baylor struggling along the way his first year. Like there's going to be bumps in the road. It might be till December before we see the best version of him. But I think we're going to see it. And I think it's going to come quick because the dude's a competitor. Like we didn't have a dog on our team last year. And I think that's our guy. You can quote me on that. You can say it's a hot take. You can throw it out there. I know Pop will back it up just because that's who he is. And everybody else is just a year older, like we have stretch fives that we have. Isaac, if he plays the 5, shooting the ball like he does and like he has been this summer, like that poses a different threat for people if Ryan's not in the game, or with Fred getting Ryan's minutes down to 30 minutes. Like we didn't have guys that could give Ryan a break last year because they just weren't ready and they weren't producing at that level. But another year under his belt, and then Jason getting comfortable at the end of last year, like I'm really excited for kind of what's coming, and I think it's. When we put it together, I can't tell you what month it's going to be put together. We're going to look like a well-oiled machine, but I'm telling you it's going to come because Mac always gets them there. And then our ceiling's probably higher than what our ceiling was last year. And I know we had a first rounder and another NBA player, but we'll figure it out.
You good, Case, good.
I actually see what you're saying. I thought at first you might have lost it, but the more I think about it, I see what you're saying from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
As a whole, I think you definitely can make that argument. I'm really excited myself to see Jason after the postseason that he had. But then, too, the kids just battled through a lot of injuries. And so to have an off season and go through a proper off season with some like realistic expectations of playing significant and meaningful minutes, I think it raises your level of focus, which is probably what I think we're seeing, what you're seeing in Fred too, is that he knows he's going to play. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about Jason because that spot is interesting because Mason's been the starter. Jason played really well down the stretch. There's no such thing as bad competition. So, how do you feel like that competition has played out so far, and what do you see different from Jason right now versus last year?
Yeah, obviously Mason shot the ball. I think he led the Big East in 3-point percentage last year. So obviously a guy that can stretch the floor at that size and do those things is invaluable. And it's awesome to have. This season, maybe third week of June, maybe. Mason obviously had his ankle injury everybody saw, and he's still working back from that. Jason's done a really good job. The cool thing about Jason is depending on scouting reports and depending on how lineups go, if people want to go small with us, like he can guard a small ball 5, or he can bring that energy and that defensive look that maybe a Fred doesn't bring. And then the next game, Fred can bring in a different look that Jason can't bring, but then you slide him to the 4. He's able to do a lot of different things just because of his ability to play and his ability to, he offensive rebounds, he can guard. So you already do those 2 things like Mac already. You have to find a place to play those guys. The problem is we have 4 of them, so it's going to go by scouting reports where hey, this guy's going to fit better in this system, or this guy's going to do be more effective this game playing against this guy. And obviously that's why Max as good as he is, and that's why he's been here for 14 years and been successful. But I'm really excited about Jason. Jason, like, to his credit, like, I think he was second in shots attempted this summer. Like, the guy's been in the gym, the guy's locked in, the guy's dedicated to getting better. And he really, like you said, Case, like, he had a taste of it. So now his focus and everything is just like, he has those expectations and everything's just laser focused and he's locked in. And he just wants to be better. Like, he was running in the off season when he didn't have to. Him and Isaac both, getting in better shape, getting faster, getting more stamina just to last when the season comes around, and just getting their best shape. And he's done that, and it's going to be. I'm excited, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out when the ball goes up in November.
You can give us your best Bill Belichick and not necessarily answer this and talk around it if you want to. But who's a guy that you think today on August 23rd has the potential to be massively improved by the middle of the season?
I think we just talked about him. I think it's Jason Green, just because he's just, I don't know. I love his approach. I love what he's done. The biggest thing that was holding him back was kind of his jumper, not because he couldn't do it. It's just because he didn't think he could do it. So the biggest thing with him is just his confidence. And we're working on stuff like that just to kind of get him to that point where he just lets it go without even thinking about it. Because some games you're going to throw in 3 out of 5. Some games you're going to throw out one out of 5. And the averages are somewhere in the middle. Hopefully it's 38. And then everything else that you can do shines at a higher level when you're given more opportunity and when you're throwing in shots. So
some games you can make 12.
Some game I didn't make 12. I never did that.
Felt like it. Felt like it.
How many was it against DePaul?
It was 11, but
11.
I don't know what 12 feels like, Case.
Mitch, I kind of want to go back to that 4 group that you talked about. The group of 4 with Fred in there too. You were talking about how different scouting reports might adjust that lineup and who plays more and who doesn't. With a guy like Fred, and then Isaac and Jason kind of battled this at times last year, where they went several games without playing, or they might get 30 seconds here or there. This year, when they're all kind of expecting to play more and they've done that extra work, how hard is it going to be to manage that for them? Like, hey, tonight might not be your night. How hard is it going to keep them locked in for the next one?
Do you guys want me to call Mac on that one and phone him in, or
don't let us stop you? I mean,
I'm just glad I'm not making the decisions in that one. But no, it'll definitely be hard. I talked to Jason throughout the year and Isaac. Like, the biggest thing is just staying ready, like getting a routine and understanding. Like, those guys are mature enough. I mean, obviously they came back, right? So that's half the battle, especially in today's transfer portal world. You just have to stay ready, and whenever your number is called, you just do the best you can and live with the results, and that's part of the confidence, and that's just part of the playing free. But at the end of the day, everybody does. They're all slightly different players, and they play a different role. But when you have 3 of them, maybe some games they play 15, 15, and 15, and then the other 5 goes to some, or 15, 15, and 10. Like, I don't know how it's going to play out. Mac's a really good field coach, and he kind of rolls with the guy that's playing well in the instance. So it's going to kind of be up to them on any given day, and just having the maturity and having the growth and just the stay ready factor. I think they'll figure that out as the season goes along.
And I think Jason is like a perfect case study of somebody who can get on the floor and produce without necessarily impacting the box score. I mean, yep. I remember there was several games last year where I was just blown away with him keeping the ball alive on offensive rebounds. He might not have secured the rebound and got it on the box score, but the key is to get out there and produce, and that doesn't mean impact the box score.
Yep, exactly. And a lot of the things he does doesn't show up there, and he's just got a knack for a lot of those things that you just can't teach.
I think you could argue that one of, if not the best team ever at Creighton had a 4-man named DJ that was not necessarily a similar player, but had that similar impact where, he didn't have to score a bunch of points to impact winning.
Yep, similar impact, and he had that dog factor, Case.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
I feel like Baylor, Trey, those guys are good. They're I wouldn't say they're like dogs, like get after you. Dame was that. Dame took it to that level, and I think Pop's real close to that. if not right there. So.
Mitch, we know you're busy, so we'll get you out of here on this one. If we're talking about Mitch Ballock, the coach, what do you need to improve on before the start of the season and the end of the season to be happy with your body of work this year?
Yeah, I just got to improve on just keeping everything in line and staying organized. Like, organization is the biggest thing. It's a huge time saver. The less organized you are, the more sporadic your head is, and the more like you're just trying to figure it out like day of or trying to put the pieces together. So organization takes a lot of time and it keeps your, like, my hair's already thinning just because I wasn't very good at it last year, you know?
I hear you, buddy.
Yeah, it's the wrong guy to talk to.
Yeah.
But I think just being more organized and being more like, my communication has to take another notch. So everybody's on the same page all the time, especially if it pertains to me or I'm leading a specific area. And a lot of that comes from organization, and then the rest will follow. Obviously there's 10 other things I could go to, but that's probably the biggest thing. And just
sure.
That.
Well, as always, our friend, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Good luck this season. We'll catch up with you when you guys tip off and get underway.
That sounds good. I appreciate you guys. Enjoy the weekend.
You too. That's Mitch Ballock. That's Casey Matthews and Alex Drake. This has been the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside of the Pyramid Contractor Studio. We'll see you next week here on the Roll Jays podcast.